folks. I'm Tom Vasel.
I'm Zee Garcia. What's happening?
And I'm Sam Healey. Hello.
Today we're doing a top 10 list about gaming that a lot of people have asked for, and it's a question, what are your top 10 favorite Kickstarter games? Now, I've done this before on the audio podcast, but we're doing it again. But there's a couple things. First of all, this will probably be the last time we do this. There are so many games and companies using Kickstarter soon that will be like, what are your top 10 favorite games at some point?
Right.
Also, there's a couple companies we excluded because we're going to be doing top 10s from those companies later on, specifically Queen Games and Eagle Griffin Games. We'll be doing top 10s from both of those companies, so they're not on this list. Most of these companies are independent publishers, or they started in Kickstarter, or maybe they were a one-off Kickstarter from a company, something like that. I found this list incredibly easy to make because there's a lot more good Kickstarter games than there was the last time I made this list a few years ago. And while I still think the majority of games that are published, I'm not even talking about the ones just put up, are not that good, still, the good stuff rises to the top. The cream rises to the top, and so there's a lot of good ones. I would happily play any of the games on my list.
I got 20 on my short list before I went through and weeded out the 10. And that was after going through 1,000 games from Kickstarter.
There are a ridiculous amount of bad games that came from Kickstarter.
Yes.
Like, it's not even close. I mean, maybe published games that are not from Kickstarter, you could say, I like, and this is lowballing it, 40% of the games. Okay. On Kickstarter, that's got to be like, I like 3% of the games.
Maybe.
Okay, well, I'm not as...
Because, wow, is there a lot of bad games that come from Kickstarter.
Yeah. Right, but that... Kickstarter does produce good stuff. It's just that there's a lack of a filter there.
That's exactly it.
A lot of stuff comes out, and I think these games are great. There's also a lot of games I like from Kickstarter, too, that just didn't make this list, but they're like okay games and things. But I think things are starting to slightly self-correct. We're starting to see some companies that put out bad games, and their second game then doesn't fund.
Right.
And, of course, then there's a new company, and miniatures still will make you fun no matter what, if the game is good or not. All the games on my list have been released. At this point in time, they're not ones I'm hoping are coming out.
Right.
Yeah, all of these have been released as well.
So, and we went by the games on Board Game Geek. We used their Kickstarter family, so it's possible that someone published a version of the game that wasn't Kickstarted or what have you.
Yes.
So you can argue about that in the comments. Here we go. Let's see what happens.
Number 10.
All right, my number 10 is a game that hit the market, Origins 2014, and just blew up.
Star Realms.
Star Realms.
Star Realms.
That's the only one I knew of.
My number 10 is Star Realms. Man, when I had really heard very little, next to nothing about Star Realms before hitting Origins. Everybody was playing it at Origins. They had a huge booth where they had multiple tables set up, and most of the time there were people around those tables. But then you went into the gaming area and you saw people playing it there too. It was so hot, somebody stole my copy of it during Origins. And then...
Never gonna let that go.
No, I'm not gonna let that go. Anyway... Star Realms was definitely...
If that guy's watching, he's shaking right now.
Oh, no! If I ever find you again, I'm using my Batman voice. Star Realms was number 10. I knew it was going to make the list.
All right. Cool. My number 10 is an independent small game. A guy published it himself and then just recently put out a second edition, and that is Paperback. When I first heard about this game, I thought, oh, another deck-building game with words. People are like, no, it's really good. Try it. I tried it. Very impressed. It's a deck-building game, solid deck-building game mixed with build words. A word game, and I liked it. It fit the two together pretty seamlessly. It's a game I can play with my wife, and she enjoys it because she likes word games, but I'm also enjoying the deck-building aspect. Very impressed. Good artwork, a good feel, good product all around. I'm very happy with Paperback. That's my number 10.
Cool. Yeah, shortlisted that one for me.
Oh, I thought that would make your list.
It didn't, but it would have been like 12. All right, number 10 for me is kind of an oldie at this point, Manhattan Project. Manhattan Project is was one of the first games, it seems like anyway, that came from Kickstarter and could have been just a published game. It was that good. It was well put together.
Well, it was
clearly
done by a
balanced.
publisher, Minion Games, so...
But you know, early on there for a while, you were like, Kickstarter game, not Kickstarter game.
Well, I still do that today.
Yeah, but lines are starting to blur, and this is one of the early games where you could go, that's just a published game. I can't quite tell. You know what I mean?
This was on my short list.
The Manhattan Project is just a really, really strong worker placement game. Interesting theme, well produced. I think it's worthwhile, and if you haven't played it, check it out. If you like worker placement games. Number 10, Manhattan Project.
Number 9.
Wonder how much crossover we're going to have on these lists. I'm curious.
I don't know. I think a solid amount.
But we'll see. But this one I don't know that either of you have. My number 9 is another independent production. It's a new company just started, and that is Stockpile. You know, I'm not always the biggest fan of stock market games, or if I like it, have a hard time getting people to play them with me. Because as Sam noted the other day, I was playing a stock game, and he was like, "You're using a calculator," and I was to figure it out. You don't have to do that in Stockpile. It's very straightforward stock market game that literally lasts 45 minutes to an hour. Has a nice shifting. It takes the whole stock market thing, kind of puts it down. Everybody has a little bit of information, but not all the information. Has my favorite kind of bidding in it. Really like it. And again, like Zee said, it looked like it was published by a main publisher. It was good looking. I liked it a lot. Thumbs up for me. Stockpile.
My number 9 is Viva Java, the coffee game, the dice game. I don't really like it.
How many colons does that have? Two?
Yeah.
It's also in his top 10 list of favorite names for games.
Yes, definitely. I'll have fun typing that in.
I think eventually you'll just be able to say Viva Java because the board game is kind of like disappearing while this game is still doing well.
I think so. Well, the board game was it's a deep, heavy game with a lot going on. The dice game took that idea and simplified it, made it really fun, made it a great dice game, and I've really enjoyed it. While still giving you, in that game, tons of variability. To the point that, I'm going to have to play the game 60 times to try everything out, you know, which is good. I will never complain about having more of a good thing. It's well made, great dice, good look. It's a nice package, for sure. Viva Java, the dice game, thumbs up for me. That's my number 9.
Okay, my number 9 is a card game, sci-fi themed, called Xenoshift Onslaught. Really cool game that, again, it's another kind of deck builder that you're trying to build your forces in order to hold off the alien hordes that keep attacking you, and it has a Starship Troopers feel to it. Because a lot of those aliens look like nasty little bugs.
Right.
Yeah, they do look like they're from that movie.
And it's wave after wave after wave. And what I liked about it was that people could help other people finish that wave. And it wasn't like 4 people playing a solitary game at the same time.
Right.
It felt like a cooperative deck building game where everybody was trying to fight off this horde in different sectors. This base is being attacked while that base over there is being attacked, and my base is being attacked too. But this time we could send resources or troops or whatever to help you out, and so that's what I really enjoyed about it. And it was a very cool looking, had great artwork, which pulls you into the theme a little bit more. So Xenoshift Onslaught was my number 9.
Yeah, that I wonder if that should have made my list. That's a really good game, so I do like it a lot.
Number 8.
Okay, my number 8 is Freedom, the Underground Railroad, a great co-op game that, again, is polished. It's extremely well balanced. It's produced very, very well. I would put it on the table, and you wouldn't be able to tell this was crowdfunded. It's that strong. Very tense game, an amazing co-op experience, very historically rich. Just, it's an amazing game, and really, if you haven't tried it, I recommend you try it, especially if you like co-op games. But even if you don't necessarily like co-op games, this is a game that just offers so much that I think you should try it anyway. My number 8, Freedom, the Underground Railroad, just thumbs up all the way.
Another one that was on my short list.
Cool.
Damn.
Really? That didn't make your list.
There's a lot of good. There's better games than I thought there would be.
All right, my number 8 is put out by Red Raven Games, and it is an amazing game. And what makes it so cool is that the designer is also the artist, who's also the publisher, and that is The Ancient World.
Oh wow.
Really cool game about just trying to I don't know what is the general.
You're fighting off giant titans that are coming to smash
fighting
stuff.
off the titans, yeah. But are they attacking you or?
No, they're
are they just,
attacking
like,
villages, and you're
indigenous?
like blocking them from fighting the villages.
See, I never
and stuff.
really caught on to that, which is cool for me because usually I'm very heavy on the theme, and if I don't understand the theme, I'm probably not going to like the game. I got to understand the theme before I like the game sometimes. But
It's a pretty Euro game. I mean,
yes, it is. It is. It is very Euro, but it also has that worker placement,
Which you love.
I really enjoy. That's right there for me. So, but what really intrigued me the most about the game is how this one guy is able. He's like not a jack of all trades. He's an ace of all trades, where he's able to do very nice artwork, and he has very good designs, and the production quality is top notch on most of his games here. Ancient World was huge thumbs up there for me. My number 8.
My number 8 is a game that I guess is one of the few games this company's put out so far, but I love it, and that's Police Precinct. I just love this cooperative police game. I love the idea. This is one of those themes that I wish there was lots of police and robber type, police and criminal games instead of zombie games, right? I wish there was like 10 of these, but this is one of the few that exists, and I think part of my liking of it so much is because I like that theme that much.
Right.
But I also like the cooperative nature of it and the fact that you're kind of moving around on a board and driving around and doing different things. It just gives me a big kick. The second edition just came out. Looks much nicer than the first edition, which I don't think you liked the first edition how it looked.
I don't mind the look. No, I like the look of it. It's all right. I don't like the game that much.
Yeah, I know.
The look is all right.
I'm kind of the proponent of this one here,
Yeah,
but I do enjoy it. So my number 8, Police Precinct.
Number 7.
My number 7 is another one of those older games that came from Kickstarter, and this is Alien Frontiers.
I'm actually surprised that it's... I would thought this would have been higher on your list.
No.
You're a big fan of this game.
I am a big fan of it, but it doesn't really come out that often. It's a longer game. It's a meatier game. Most of the ones after this, not all of them.
Probably because you don't have rocket dice.
I don't think that's why it is.
I don't have anything.
But yeah, no. I do like the game a lot. I think it's a solid game, but again, it's a crowded field, also worker placement, and they keep coming out, And the older games in that genre, especially if they are in the heavier side of the spectrum, will get sidelined. And I think that's a little bit of what it is. But it's still an amazing production. It's a very good game, well designed, interesting. Love the look of the game. Thumbs up if you like worker placement. Check it out. My number 7, Alien Frontiers.
My number 7 was reprinted via Kickstarter. The original edition of this came out in a small print run from a tiny company, and it had some buzz, but then was reprinted now in this gigantic box with a lot of stickers. And that is Catacombs. I really enjoy the flicking through a dungeon, and this Kickstarter, they made it look really good. High quality components, nice discs, added a ton of content that wasn't in the original game. They took the original one, which was like this small black box of pretty bad artwork. And now the artwork is more of a silly style, but the game is silly in itself. I love dexterity, flicking type games, so this one's right up my alley. That's Catacombs.
Man, top 10, huh?
Top 10.
I was not expecting that one.
Well, it's in my collection. That's a big deal, for there.
Yeah.
It's on my list of best reprints for this year already. I really enjoy it.
Okay.
My number 7's already been mentioned by Zee, and that is Freedom, the Underground Railroad.
Yeah.
It is. I'm big on the historical aspect of games, if there is one, of course. And this one really kind of hit it out of the park. It gave I think, a fair shake to the whole slavery culture that was in America at that point in time. It showed the good and the good being that slaves were able to escape. I'm gonna say that.
Good to clarify that there.
But then, it also showed the bad side, how people were actively trying to not get them to escape, and all of the kind of hoops that they had to jump through to kind of to obtain their freedom. And the Underground Railroad being just one of those. And so I thought it was a great game. The theme and the mechanics worked well together. So knew it was going to make the list.
Well, it's a game that's both accurate but respectful and sobering, yet fun.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, it strikes this balance that is, it's extremely difficult to strike. I mean,
all of that together.
Many games cannot pull this off.
We were talking earlier about how, well, not here, but most educational games are not fun.
Right.
This one, you have fun and you learn.
Yes.
At the same time.
And that is a truly rare feat.
It is.
It is.
My number 7, Freedom, the Underground Railroad.
Number 6.
My number 6 is another game that was printed in the U.S. through Kickstarter, though it came out in Russia without Kickstarter, and that is Viceroy. Viceroy from Mayday Games. This was a big campaign. It was a game I liked enough that I wanted to add it to the Dice Tower Essentials. This is one of those games that theme is not really there.
Sure.
You're just making a pyramid of dudes and trying to connect to make gems and get special abilities, but I liked how each card, the higher up the pyramid you made it, different abilities came. It was clean. It had a blind bidding system, which worked. It was like slow blind bidding. Worked okay. Works well with 2, 3, and 4 players. I liked it with all the different counts. Just really a cool game, and I don't know. It's just one of those games that you play. You're like, that's pretty interesting. Let's try it again. Yeah. That's Viceroy.
Not bad.
Cool.
We're not having any disagreement here. People are going to hate this list.
Well,
I hate your choice.
I think the one I've liked the least from everything you've said was Police Precinct, but I can disagree with you. It's an alright game, I just don't like it.
We have such a huge thing to pick from that we're picking games that probably we'll all agree are somewhat good.
We're all picking the top 5% of anything that's come out on Kickstarter. There's not going to be a whole lot of going, oh, that game's bad. No.
That Kickstarter family on Board Game Geek has like 348 pages, and there's only 10 listings on each page. So
yeah, but I didn't pick anything past the first 8 pages.
I made myself look at least 5 pages.
I mean, I looked at a ton. I looked at woof.
Yeah.
But there's nothing that came from anything past the first 8 or 10 pages.
I stopped at 1,000 games, and I had 20. I was like, that's probably about as good as it's going to get.
That's it.
Because I ranked them by number of rankings. So the more popular of the group.
Right.
And after you go through 1,000, and you only got 20, that's the proof is in the pudding.
Right.
Anyway, my number 6 is also a game that's already been mentioned again by Zee, and that is the Manhattan Project. Again, worker placement game, and the theme is a really cool addition here. It's a very Euro-y game. But
your Achilles heel for Euro games is worker placement.
Yes, it is.
I'd be like, Sam, we're playing a Euro game. He'd be like, it's worker placement. You'd be like,
oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
We'll give it a try. But I love the theme that you're trying to manufacture nuclear weapons, and you have to test them, not fire them on people, but just test them. But then they also have the mechanic where you could air raid the other players' factories. You didn't do that very often because it was kind of costly.
Not with real bullets, with ice bullets.
No, they were with real bullets and real planes, and people died. It was messy.
Oh.
But I just enjoyed that theme. It had the same kind of feel as What's He Building in There had to it, but they did it right, where you didn't have to feel like you were following a script. But the Manhattan Project, it was a game that I immediately enjoyed. Immediately after playing it for the first time, said I needed to go out and get a copy. And I do have a copy now, and it's sitting on my shelf. So that is the Manhattan Project, my number 6.
Cool. My number 6 is one of the more recent games on the list. It's a co-op game, and it's one of my favorite games this year as well. Dead Men Tell No Tales.
It's a good game.
Dead Men Tell No Tales.
Same company, right? Minion Games.
That's right. And this one is It's not particularly original, I think. The setting's original. The setting's very cool. You're raiding a burning ship as pirates. You're pirates, you're raiding a ship, but the ship is cursed and it's burning around you.
Which is probably why it's burning, because it was cursed.
I guess. I don't know, quite possibly. But the mechanisms feel a lot like Flashpoint Fire Rescue. Some stuff from there meets some stuff from Pandemic. But it works well. It's a nice mix. It's well produced for the most part. It's not higher on my list actually because I have a couple of issues with some of the production quality, which I did consider for my list. It's not just favorite game, but it's favorite game and how did they make it?
I always consider component quality. Come on now.
Well, right, but I mean on a Kickstarter list that's especially prevalent. But I really like it. I thought it was an amazing co-op game, a genre I'm already in love with anyway, and this is a good one from this year. So if you haven't played it, check it out. Dead Men Tell No Tales is my number 6.
Number 5.
All right, my number 5 is I guess you could call it a religiously themed game, and that's called Kings of Israel. And the reason I put this on my list is because it is a religious theme that is also a good game. It has a little bit of a pandemic feel to it, except for the fact is you're not trying to cleanse a virus or something like that from the reason. You're trying to get sin out of the nation of Israel, and each king throughout the nation of Israel provides a different spin, or not really spin, condition or effect within the game, whether it was a good king of Israel or a bad king of Israel. And it has a really neat pandemic feel to it, but it is a religiously themed game, and I thought it was very well done. And religious games usually are not fun. This one was. And so made my number 5, Kings of Israel.
That's higher than I thought it might be.
Yeah.
My number 5 is a game that was originally a Russian game, got cleaned up, reprinted, and put out here in the States. The game is Evolution, and that was put out
It got really cleaned up.
Yeah, it got really...
It's like night and day, really.
It's a big evolution on Evolution, really. Yeah, that was a bad pun.
Yes,
and it's from...
That's why no one smiled
what's
even.
the company? Help me out
The original
here.
company was Brain Games.
No.
The new company is North Star.
North Star. I always forget their name, the name of the company. I guess it just blends in for me. North Star. The game's very well done. It's attractive as all get out. I mean, I think the artwork they did for the reprint of it is spectacular. And it all came from pretty much one person, which I think is why it all looks so good together.
Mm.
And she does, I think the artist, if I'm not mistaken, is a woman who does that kind of art anyway. She does, nature depictions and such, and it's spectacular. Game's a very strong card game, really interesting, fairly unique. That doesn't make any sense, that statement. It stands out from the crowd of card games, and I like it a lot. I think it's really good. They just came out with an expansion, also very good, Evolution Flight. So thumbs up from me. That's my number 5, Evolution.
My number 5 was already on Z's list, and that is Alien Frontiers, which I think stands as a testament to how good the game is, considering it was the first, or one of, not the first, but the first Kickstarter project to make any kind of waves, where people are like, oh wow, this new weird thing, Kickstarter. And it raised a very small amount of money compared to what Kickstarter's raised today. It was a couple, $20,000, $30,000, not much compared to today. Today we go, that's not going to end up being anything special. Right. But it has turned out well. I mean, they've done like 4 versions of it now and have a bunch of little tiny expansions. But despite all that, the game itself is really solid. It's still one I would be glad to play. Worker placement dice is a neat idea. So, Alien Frontiers.
Number 4.
All right, my number 4 is another game from Red Raven Games.
Is it a new game?
Came out. Just came out, and for all the reasons that I included, the Ancient World, Artifacts Incorporated is right there with it. As a matter of fact, Artifacts Incorporated, of course, it's higher on my list. I enjoy it more than the Ancient World, and probably because of its
Has dice, man.
Compact nature, and it has dice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it has a less of a footprint at a gaming event or anything like that. And you're rolling dice. You're using those dice as worker placements, and so it just hit on a lot of the pistons that I'm looking for in a game. So I knew it was going to make my list when I saw it on in that little family section. Artifacts Incorporated.
I'm really interested because on the internet, the designer has put up a variant where you can play some dice at a time. So you're not playing your whole turn. You don't play your whole turn on my turn and his turn. You put out some dice, we can bump each other off things, which gives the other person money when you bump them off. It was an interesting sounding variant, which seems like it would make the game go faster. Certainly want to try it out. I already like the game a lot.
Yeah.
But that would fix my only problem with the game was a little bit of downtime.
Okay.
And so, anyhow.
Interesting.
My number 4 is a big, giant game that came out last year from Kickstarter.
Blue Realm.
No, you did not like this game. But it is Zaya, a Legends of a Drift System. All right, whatever. Okay. These guys
There's some
don't know
disagreement
what
for you. Pick a good game next time.
Yeah, double vomit. I'm always excited for that. If this table really had... Okay, anyway.
It'd have a lot of stains.
I did to get a new table. I like Zaya. It is a sandbox-style game where you take your ship, you can go out and do whatever you want, which also has some downtime issues. But I like the game. There's the freedom to go attack other players, the freedom to go pick up stuff, deliver from here to there, the freedom to go deliver missions. And it has beautiful production, really cool. I believe he's starting to work on a second edition of it. I don't know. But the first edition itself was amazing. That's Zaya Legends of a Drift System, which any good gamer would like.
I'll give you that it's a beautifully produced game. I will say that. And especially for it being that company's first game, right? It's that designer and company's first game. He did a good job.
He was very particular about it, which actually delayed the project because he would say, okay, I wasn't happy with these molds. They're going to be better. So he strove for that high quality.
That's funny. I mean, he definitely...
But he kept people in the loop so they weren't upset. It was late, but it was really nice looking.
He hit that out of the park with the production, for sure.
You do have a lot of freedom in the game. You know, freedom to fall asleep on somebody else's turn.
You have the freedom. It's a sandbox game, meaning go outside, leave it in the sandbox.
Exactly.
Walk away.
Waka
My
waka.
number 4 is also a Red Raven game. Red Raven Games is getting all sorts of love.
Yeah.
And this game has been mentioned already by Sam. The Ancient World.
Wow, you too?
Number 4.
You too?
No, I thought he was going to say Artifacts, really. Wow.
Artifacts made the short list, but did not make my list.
Oh.
The Ancient World is just, a spectacular worker placement game with some interesting innovations to the system. It doesn't rewrite the book on worker placement, but it's a real nice run at it, and it works well. It looks more intimidating than it is. That's part of it, but it's a clean system, which I like. You score by doing some set collection ultimately. There's some special powers, some bumping off other people's workers if you play your cards just right. It's interesting, and I like it a lot. I like the theme, though it's not, it doesn't really come through that much. It's there. It makes for nice artwork. Really good worker placement game. I've enjoyed my plays of this a lot. My number 4, The Ancient World.
Number 3.
My number 3 is only on the list because it had an expansion. When I first played Tuscany, Tuscany was a decent game. I enjoyed it. I'm sorry, Viticulture, sorry. When I first played Viticulture, it was a decent game. I enjoyed it, but just kind of a passing thing. Then they came out with the second edition, which was really good, and then the Tuscany expansion at the same time. And when you put those together, it's in my top 100 games. That's how much I like it. This game is phenomenal. Every time we're together and people are like, "What do you want to play?" I'm always thinking about it because it plays well with all the number of players too, 2 to 6, and I'm like, "Ooh, I really do like Viticulture with Tuscany." So many, it was a really cool expansion with all these different modules. Just they really hit it out.
It was a legacy expansion.
Well, that's not true. It's a modular expansion. About 15 modules, and I think I liked 7 of them a lot, that I would include with the game. One that completely changed the game, added a whole new game board, which is the only way I'll play anymore. Love this game a lot. Viticulture with Tuscany was my number 3.
Cool.
Also an example of one of the best Kickstarter guys in Stonemaier Games. Just they're like what a Kickstarter company should be.
Right. All right. My number 3 has been mentioned already by Tom, and this is Viceroy. I think when I played it with you. Actually, the first time I played with the Russian one, and man, the game just really. It surprised me with how much I liked it. It was exactly in my wheelhouse. It had that characters with special powers thing, which I've liked ever since, Citadels, right? It had powers meets very mechanics, mechanisms heavy sort of card play. Also something I really enjoy. I like that meeting point of something that is solid mechanically, but then has a bunch of cards that mess with that and let you have fun in that system. And this game has that in spades. Stunning artwork, and it doesn't even need it because the theme's barely there, like you were saying, but the artwork is superb. Every card looks good. The scoring system's fairly straightforward, so it doesn't bog down in that. I really, really enjoy this game. I Kickstarted, got my copy, and it's been in heavy rotation since I got it. So Viceroy, my number 3.
My number 3 is a game that I have talked heavily about in the past, and that is a dice game by Richard Launius called Run, Fight, or Die.
So that went up to number 3.
And it is one that I really, really enjoy. It almost has not really, but almost a puzzle aspect. How am I going to take care of all these zombies that are in my zones before they attack and kill me? So you have to roll your dice, and hopefully what you roll is going to allow you to work through that puzzle of getting rid of these 20 some odd zombies that are trying to kill me. But on top of that, then the zombie boss is going to show up, and he's going to just start lobbing, difficulty at you. And it's a lot of different things kind of converge on why I like this game. I like that it is a fast game. One of the things that I'm kind of iffy on is that it could end without you knowing it. It has that sudden or abrupt ending to it, because if anybody ever dies, that's it. Game's over.
Keep them alive.
And now, you kind of have
to take care of me.
That's the yeah, Mr. Push Your Luck over here. But it's just one of those games that has a lot of things firing for it, and I really enjoyed it from the very beginning when I was taught how to play my son and I at Dice Tower Con by Richard. So it's definitely a solid number 3 on my list. Run, Fight, or Die.
Number 2.
All right, my number 2 is a game that I think was originally Kickstarted and then was picked up by Stronghold, if I'm not mistaken. Among the Stars.
It was
number 2.
Kickstarted originally, yes.
Right? And Among the Stars is this just spectacular drafting game with a really neat setting. Again, it's that thing, like I said about Viceroy, interesting card play with powers and stuff meets a solid mechanics framework. Those two things coming at each other and both feeding off each other means that the game is not goofy chaos if you just do the card powers, and it's not dry if you just do interesting mechanisms. It's both, and it just fires really well. It's very Seven Wonders-ish, with a sci-fi, theme on top, and then the cards act as tiles on the board, so there's that interest there. I really, really like it. I like drafting games anyway, and this is one of the best drafting games out there. My number 2, Among the Stars.
Is that your number 2 also?
Come on.
My number 2 is a game that's already been mentioned by... maybe it was mentioned by both of you. I think it was mentioned by you too. Just recently. Number 5, I think. Maybe. I don't know.
Oh, Alien Frontiers.
Yes, Alien Frontiers. Alien Frontiers is, again, worker placement game, dice rolling, and everything that they've already said is definitely true about the game. It does run a little long, but you just cut it back to about 4 players, and it hits a sweet spot there, I think.
I agree with
So the factions that they've added to it give each player a little bit of a different feel, which is cool. You know, a little special power that only you can do, and that's always a cool thing. Well, most of the time it's a cool thing for me. But using the dice as your workers is a cool thing, and how getting your colonies and area controlling on the actual planet to get those special abilities. There's just so many different things about the game that I really enjoyed, and it's one of the original, I guess you could say, one of them, Kickstarter games, and they should have set the pace. If people would just follow that pace, I think we'd have a lot more.
Yeah,
Better.
that's
Kickstarter
interesting.
Games.
Well, this was before stretch goals and
Yeah, I guess.
add-ons and all that stuff. Although they managed to do that in the second and third editions.
One of the things that happen, which I know is an issue, is that a lot of these stretch goals is let's add a player. And I know for a fact that designers have made the game 2 to 4. Let's say it ends up being 2 to 6, and guess what? 5 and 6 sucks because it was never meant to be, and that's a big issue with a lot of Kickstarters. If the stretch goal is, hey, let's add more players, maybe you don't have to do that. That's all I'm saying, you know.
My number 2 is Blood Rage from Eric Lang. I got some.
Number 2.
Never heard of it.
There's going to be a number 1 on top of this.
Yes, there is. You'll see. Well,
I won't agree with it.
I know you won't. But Blood Rage is my number 2. And I know people say that I'm being an Eric Lang fanboy here.
You're being an Eric Lang fanboy.
Yeah, blah, blah, blah. But the fact is I really feel like in a year, people will still be talking about this game. It will still be being played. It works for people who like Euro games and Ameritrash. It is absolute stunning production. It includes things that everyone likes. It hits a reasonable length of time. It has drafting. It has area control. You can die and get points. You can win and get points. It has a cool combat system with cards. It's easy to teach and play, but every game will play differently, mostly due to the drafting. I really can't say enough good things about this game. I'm just mind-boggled with how much fun I have at it, and I'm surprised that it's not getting as much buzz as it is, but I think once the copies get out there, it will. And I have yet to meet someone who's played it who has disliked it. I've met a few people who are like, it was okay, but most people are like, wow, that was amazing. And so, my number 2, Blood Rage.
And finally, number 1.
Here we go. I need a win. Big 20, big 20, big 20. 2.
You got half of what you want.
I could still win if you both roll 1s. That'd be so epic.
6.
Okay.
I won with a 6.
3.
Hilarious.
Who's first? I don't know what yours is. I know what Sam's is.
We'll just go. Actually, yeah, we know what. I'll leave you for last. I'll go first, then Sam, then you. How about that? Okay. All right, my number 1 is one that's been mentioned already. And again, it's not necessarily my favorite game ever, but it's one that the production is so incredibly stellar. That, man, I playing this game, I mean, like, just playing with the bits is a pleasure. What is it?
Tuscany Viticulture.
Yes, Viticulture is my number 1. Extremely high production value, very solid game, don't get me wrong. This is not by any means a bad game, but it's elevated to the point that it made my number 1 because it is so well made, because everything clicks together, because you could never tell that it's, that it's not a product and a labor of love. It is amazing. Worker placement, interesting theme, unique theme, and something a little bit more fresh than, hey, it's zombies again or whatever. Real world setting, which I do tend to like. Tension all the way through, because it's one of those games that you need to hit a threshold to win, and the closer you get, man, the game just gets more and more tense. Every turn is like, I need to do more than I'm able to do. This turn I feel like I didn't do enough, and that's every turn once you're 10 minutes into the game, really, and that's a spectacular feeling for this game. Viticulture, especially with the Tuscany expansion, through the roof. Amazing game. My number 1 game that has come from Kickstarter.
My number one game that has come from Kickstarter is Beyond the Shadow of a Doubt, Blood Rage, by Eric Lane, cool mini or not. It has so many cool things going for it. Amazingly well done miniatures. Good artwork. The player boards could have been a little bit more bright, popped a little bit more. It was a little dismal that way, but that's a minor quibble as far as I'm concerned. It is a game that I really enjoyed, and then on Saturday I was able to play it twice again, and I was able to teach and go through 2/3 of the game with a group, with a full contingent of 4 players in less than an hour. So that extra third of the game probably would have taken another maybe 20 minutes. So it packs so much punch into an hour, maybe an hour and a half. And you just feel like you have played something worthy of being played at the end of it. And so Blood Rage was, beyond the shadow of a doubt, going to be my number one when I made this list. So there you go.
All right.
Wow.
Well, Blood Rage could be my number one by the end of next year. Well, it's the same company. Cool Mini or not, and that is Arcadia Quest. I just love Arcadia
At
Quest.
least you're not an Eric Lang fanboy.
Yeah.
No, look, I don't care. Every time I play Arcadia Quest, the minis are cool and everything's cool in it, but it's just fun. I get such a huge burst of energy playing that game. It's so much fun moving around, fighting the other players. It's one of those games where I remember the moments in the game. I remember when I did that in that game. I remember when I did this. I just really like it. Now, Blood Rage could pass it in this type of thing, but Arcadia Quest, I went and looked at the new expansion at Gen Con. I was like, oh, more miniatures. And I'm really excited. I'm getting my set painted right now. I can't wait to play with that. I don't care. I don't care.
Blood Rage is such a better game than this.
Well, maybe it will end up being that way, but currently I've had way more fun playing Arcadia Quest. I played it much more than I played Blood Rage.
Right.
So there's that too, but just a fantastic game, Arcadia Quest.
Cool.
You're a monster.
You get to play with the monsters in the Blood Rage. Okay, that was a lead balloon. All right, anyhow.
I think it's time we wrap this one up, guys.
It is. What are your favorite Kickstarter games? Tell us in the comments. I would love to see. And then once again, a couple companies will be doing their top 10s in the future. Come back in 2 weeks for another top 10 list about we haven't decided yet. Until then, I'm Tom Vasel.
I'm Zee Garcia. Thank you, folks.
Now I'm Sam Healey. See you on the flip side, y'all.
Yeehaw.